Hi, everyone. So glad you're able to join us today at our resource hackathon. And so we'll start off by just doing a few introductions today. So hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Prescott. I am the chief editor and moderator for the GCTLC. And I'll let other folks here on the team go ahead and introduce themselves. Jonathan, if you want to go next.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Jonathan Moyer. I am the Senior Program Manager at Beyond Benign for the GCTLC, and I'm really excited to have you guys here. Maybe I'll pass over to my colleague Nim.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Nimrith Obi. I go by Nim, and I'm a program manager for the Green Chemistry Teaching and Learning community. So I work with John and with Sarah on all things GCTLC, and I'll turn it over to Chloe.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm communications and events coordinator here at Beyond Benign. I'm just going to be helping with Zoom logistics today. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Then maybe Amy.
Hi, Amy Cannon, co-founder and executive director of Beyond Benign. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, team. If you wouldn't mind advancing for me, Chloe. And you can keep going since we just did intros. Awesome. So again, really happy to have everyone here today. Many thanks to our founding sponsors for founding and helping us have the GCTLC available for the community to be able to use. You can go forward. We're going to do this quickly, get everybody in. So our agenda for today, we'll do a brief intro of what the GCTLC is, go over the submission process and the learning objects and the things that we're going to ask for your help in uploading today. So part of that is to make sure everyone is on the platform. So I'll walk through how to create a profile if you don't have one already. I'll walk through the learning objects, give you an example of a sample resource we have published, as well as that submission form and the process. And then we will get signed up to do some resource uploading. So no worries if you don't have a resource with you. If you do, that's also fine. So I'll talk more about those two options today. Again, we're really excited to have you join us today. So we'll do that intro to begin with, about 10-15 minutes, real quick walkthrough, and then plenty of time for us to do that uploading. So if folks are not familiar with what the GCTLC is, so the GCTLC stands for the Green Chemistry Teaching and Learning Community. It's a joint initiative between Beyond Benign and the American Chemical Society Green Chemistry Institute. And we're really happy to have you join us. So the GCTLC involves many aspects. So we're going to hit on just a couple of those today. But there are other features and resources that you can use on the platform, and we're happy to share about that. So please do ask us questions at any time about the platform and what it can do. So we'll focus on the learning objects today and that process. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, what the GCTLC is. It is by the community for the community. So this is a community-driven project, and with a vision of this teaching and learning community that empowers global citizens with green chemistry knowledge, skills, and tools to transform science education, address grand challenges, and ensure a sustainable future for all. And we're really happy you're joining us on this journey. You can see the core values listed there. Thanks, I got a little ahead of you, for the community. And that's okay, you can advance. So like to share a little bit about where we're at right now. Some really exciting news for folks that might be listening to this recording. If you joined us in previous sessions, we have some exciting additions here. So the platform now has over 930 users, woohoo, across 6 continents and 64 countries. Like, woo, that deserves like a lot of, yes, fantastic. We have over 210 curriculum resources published in the library as of this time of this presentation today. So that's also some fantastic news. So really happy that everyone's getting really into helping us on the platform and getting involved and engaged in the community. So thank you to all of you that have helped with all of this. Some other news here just in terms of a focus on the resources. So as I said before, we have over 210 resources that are published. There are 18 that are in draft or under review. Happy to talk about the review process. We won't focus too much on that today, but if anyone's curious, you can always ask and we will share more information about that. Some of the newest additions to those resources that you'll see. So the Green Chem Essential, which is a video and podcast series. We have some new video series uploaded. And for folks that are familiar, we have migrated over a majority of the resources that were in the GEMS database. So if you have been in the green chem space for a while and education community, you might be familiar with that former database. So we have a lot of those activities now on the platform. So just to give you a sense of some of the things that are there and much more.
Apologies for the technical difficulty.
It's okay,
I
no
have
problem.
a mouse that like it's just thank you. Sorry.
No worries. I'm really glad I had it up on another screen so I could tell what I still needed to be talking about. So thank you. That's all good. So our focus today is to talk about these resources and to help everyone get them uploaded and through that process. So a little bit about that and what these learning objects are. So learning objects, otherwise abbreviated LOs, that you'll see throughout these slides and in other places on the platform. These are the educational resources that the community shares with each other. So in terms of submitting these resources, any users on the platform, so if you're an authenticated user, you can submit any of these resources to have them included in the library. Again, we call those learning objects. So these can be a variety of educational resources. They can be lab experiments, in-class activities, lecture slides, etc. So any variety of things that you're using in your classroom, we welcome you to submit and share with the community. The learning objects do need to align with green chemistry and or sustainability within chemistry and STEM. They can be external resources. And so for folks helping us upload today, we have a few of those external resources, and I'll show you one of those from the Royal Society of Chemistry, RSC. And so those are some of the resources that we are uploading onto the into the library and the platform. You can also upload your own original resources. So you have both of those options available to you. In the case of original work, so if you have a resource that has that is your own work and has not been published elsewhere, we can assign DOIs. DOIs are digital object identifiers, is what the DOI stands for. And that gives a permanent digital link to that publication resource. So you can share that and people can access that resource as they would like to. So happy to talk more about that if you have questions about DOIs. The review of the learning objects. So once those learning objects are submitted, they are submitted through the platform, and myself and other administrators in the platform get alerted that you have submitted your resource. And then we push that through the process. So it is a peer-reviewed system. I do an initial review as the chief editor, and then we'll assign peer reviewers to then look at the resource. The criteria for the peer review process is intended to be a low barrier to getting these excellent resources out to everyone to be able to use. So the criteria that the peer review process looks at is the alignment with the green chemistry and sustainability principles, accessibility, accuracy and quality of the resource, safety, and pedagogical utility. So how it's used in the classroom and if it is useful for others to be able to use that resource. Again, those barriers are intended to be low. If you have any questions about this, we're more than happy to consult with you and help you answer any questions or help you with adjusting any resources or adding things that might be needed. I'm also in constant communication with folks, so if you ever have any questions about your resource, we are more than happy to assist. So let's do this. So in today's hackathon, what we'd like to invite you to do is to help upload resources. So these can be resources of your own that you brought with you. Awesome. If you don't have a resource to upload handy, we have some that we can help you help identify for you and ask for your help in uploading. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a process here. There'll be a couple of links, I think, coming into the chat that I'll ask for folks, maybe Chloe or others can help me with. So the first thing that we'd like to do is just do a quick walkthrough of the platform and make sure that everyone has a profile. So that'll be our first step. So creating a profile and signing in. And I'm going to share my screen in a little bit, but let me talk through the slide that you see here before I do that. So you're going to make sure you have a profile. We'll have you log in and you'll walk through alongside with me one of those resources. So first step here, I'll do in just a moment. Once we have that, so once folks are logged in and have their, are able to access things, I will then review that submission process with an example resource. So you'll be able to see the resource, what the fields look like, how you enter the information. So I will walk through that with you with an existing resource. And then once we get through that, I will give you access to a spreadsheet that has existing resources and also a place for you to put your information in to help you in that upload process. So more on that in a moment. I realized I just sent a lot of information your way. So let me pause for a moment and see if there are any questions to this point before we go through creating the profile and getting started on this. Or any of the other team members, if I completely missed something you want to add in at this point. Okay, awesome. So I think what I'll have you do, Chloe, is I think I will share my screen, if that's okay. Give me just a moment to do a little finagling on my end.
Well, yeah, feel free to just listen. You don't have to use your voice too much. But Michelle, yeah, I see you got in, so that's great. So yeah, if I just sent you the password, so Michelle's in now, so I think we're good.
Great. So once you're in there, I'll just show you a little bit about what you'll see once you do have an account. So I'm just going to go into my account and you'll see your profile here. What we ask for folks, so because this is a community and we want to make sure everyone can connect with folks, is to enter the information here that you would like to share with the community. So some of the things is to add a picture if you would like to. So we encourage that. If you want to add in keywords or tags, that's also really helpful because that's the way that people can search on the platform to find people that do particular things. So in the context of a profile, let's say you're in organic chemistry, you might want to put in that as a keyword so other folks could find you. Whatever keywords make sense for how people, what interests and things that you have that you would like to share. But that is the main way that people would find you, by searching the platform. So it's important to add that. So I'm sharing you mine here. So if you kind of scroll down, you'll see the different keywords and tags that I've included. So you can feel free to add in the keywords that make sense for you. It is such that when you're going into that field and start typing in a keyword, it should pull down a list of existing keywords for you to choose and add from that. Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong. Can they also add in additional ones?
Yep. Yeah, you can create new ones in that field. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, and I think that there is a maximum of 4.
I think it's 4. Mm-hmm.
Okay, 4 keywords. I know I use them, so I'm counting. Yes, I think there's 4. But this is really helpful for people to be able to find you. So if you're in there in your profile, and if you wouldn't mind adding a keyword, you could probably add a picture later if you don't have one handy. That's really helpful for everyone to be able to learn who's here in the community. So the next part I'll do is going through that submission process. The first thing I'm going to do is show you a resource, and then I'll show you the submission process for that resource. So a little bit of perhaps a backwards way of approaching this, but it helped people before, so we'll see. So this is a resource, a learning object that is already published on the platform called Antibacterial Properties of the Halogens. It is a resource from the RSC collection. That is the collection that we'll have available for people to upload today if you would like to do that. So that's why I chose this one to show. So when you're going into a resource, you're looking at a published resource here. So you can see the title at the top. There is a summary section, keywords that have been chosen for this particular resource. And then you can see additional fields down below. Any of the fields for which there is content entered will appear on the resource. So there are definitely some fields that are not shown here because there was no content submitted for that particular field. And I'll show you the submission process so you can see that. So you can see, for example, the moderation state appears for everything. So this would say whether it's in draft form, under review, accepted, or in that published state, like you can see for this resource. Different types of things about what the type of object it is, who the audience is who the resource is designed for in terms of the audience, and some other information. I'll show you more about those fields on the submission form. Importantly, obviously, the green chemistry principles associated with the resource. If there are UN SDGs, UN Sustainable Development Goals associated with the resource that you've identified, those would appear. Learning goals or student objectives, common pedagogies or teaching approaches that are covered in the resource. And then the person that submitted the resource, you can see here on the left. This is not all of the fields that are possible. This is just an example of some of those that you can enter content in and see for the resource. On the right-hand side, you can see the safety precautions, which is a required field for all. And so for those that it's not applicable, you'll see that NA. And then we do have the availability of linking to external resources. And so that's what you see here on this particular resource. Again, not all the fields are shown, but it gives you a sense of some of the things that you are able to enter in for content. And I'll show you how that matches to the submission form in just a second. Another thing to point out is that all of the resources that are published here have the ability to comment on them. So as a community member, we invite you to engage with these resources and provide comments on them. And so you can see that field that's shown here. And so let me stop at that point. Questions on the published resource you see here, or any thoughts you'd like to share? The next thing I'll show you is that submission form and how you actually submit these resources to the platform for review. Also, other folks, feel free to add in if I've missed key points. Okay.
No, I think all looks good. I know that Michelle will probably have to head out in a minute or two, I think, right? Yeah.
Sure. So I will continue then with just the steps of the submission process, and we'll probably end at that point so we can have that recording available for people.
Sounds great.
Okay, awesome. Can do. So the next step I'll show you is the behind the scenes, sort of what that submission process looks like from this particular resource. And for folks that would be joining us in the hackathon, at this point, I would share a spreadsheet, but I know we don't have folks that are live with us today, so I will skip that piece, but I will show you that submission process and what that form looks like and talk through a little bit of the fields that you see here as an overview, as an example for other folks that want to follow along here in submitting their own resource. So when you come into a submission form, obviously all of this content would not be here and would be blank, but I think it's helpful to kind of see an example and where those different fields are entered and what you're entering in for information. So the first thing to note is when you're coming into the submission form, you'll see particular fields that are starred, and those are required content. So when you are submitting a learning object, those would be areas that you need to submit information to. So for example, here, the title of the resource is required. The contributors, so these are the folks that are contributing the resource. Happy to speak more about that if people have questions, since we're doing this as a recording, but these could be the authors that are contributing to the resource. A note here, they do need to be on the platform in order for them to appear in this field. So a workaround that we have currently is to list any authors that are not currently on the platform in the summary section so that they still have that attribution associated with the resource. So that is that contributors field. We do have the ability to add resources to collections. So this one that you're looking at here, we have added to a Royal Society of Chemistry, the RSC collection, and we're happy to work with you if you have multiple resources that you feel a collection might be a good idea. Just contact us and we're happy to chat more about that. We have the ability to add a picture. So you'll see that here, that is optional, so that you can add a picture that's related to the learning object. Another required section is the summary section. So this would be an overview of the resource. You can see here it gives a one sentence that's talking about this particular resource and what people might find for that. Beneath that are the keywords, another required section. This is a drop-down list. As soon as you start entering one of the words that you think is a good keyword for your resource, it will give you, if that's already in the library, it will pull that down. You also have the ability to add in your own keywords. They are comma separated. So if you're adding in your own, just make sure you put a comma after the word and then your next keyword. Following that is the object type. So this is the type of educational resource it is. You can select more than one option here. The time required, if you have that information or if that's applicable to the resource, you can add that. The audience, again, multiple selections here are possible, so whatever audience makes sense for your resource. Common pedagogies covered are underneath that. These are, I should mention, these are the audience is required, but the pedagogies is not, so you can enter that if it's applicable. And in all of these, there are multiple selections possible, so you can choose more than one option as it relates to your resource. Couple of other fields below that. So NGS standards. So these would be standards that are applicable to the K-12 audience. If you have those that are related to your resource, you can enter those in here. I know that that's particularly helpful for our K-12 teachers to have those identified if you do have those identified with your resource. The next section is learning goals or student objectives. This is a required section for some external resources, like you'll see here for this RSC resource. We have not opted to enter those because they weren't available on the resource itself. So in those types of cases, you can enter NA, but if you certainly do have goals and objectives as part of your resource, we invite you to enter that information to share with others. In alignment with the green chemistry and rationale for inclusion on the GCTLC, this is an inward facing field. So this is to let us know why you feel that this is a good resource to be sharing on the platform. So this does not need to be really exhaustive as a section. So we've had that question before, but just pointing out why you think it's a good match. You know, what about it makes sense for it to be as a resource on this platform. And I'll also note that if you're not sure, something is better than nothing here. And if we have questions, we'll certainly reach out to you and ask. So no worries there. Green chemistry principles, so identifying those here. There is an option for not applicable if the resource does not specifically identify two particular principles, which we have seen, for example, in this case. You can always select multiples here. The UN SDGs are below that. Again, and this is an optional field, but if you have that related to your resource, you can select any number of these that are applicable. Following that is another rationale for the above choices. So this is relating to those principles, the green chemistry principles you might have chosen, and or the UN SDGs, and whatever information might be relevant there as a rationale for choosing those. Again, this is not meant to be onerous, so a sentence or two as to how those choices relate is sufficient for us to review that process. Safety precautions, hazards, and risk assessment is the next field. And so here, mention any particular precautions that are required. If there are none for the resource, then NA is appropriate. Some optional fields here. So if you have any recommendations on or piloting data, for example, you tried this in a particular class setting, you might mention that. Whatever types of data that you have that you think would be helpful for others to know. And then in other notes information. So whatever else you would like to share about your resource. Down below that are two fields that relate to the licensing of your resource. So for folks that have questions about this, we invite you to reach out to us if you're not familiar with Creative Commons licenses, but we do offer 3 options here to license your work. And I'm happy to talk more about that with anyone that's interested. So how do I choose between them as an example, or what exactly does that mean? Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to discuss that with you and help you choose the right option. Related learning objects, the library has the ability to connect your object to other learning objects on the platform. So for example, this might work well if you have maybe a series of lessons. So you have, say, 3 or 4 lessons that you want to be able to relate to others. You want people to be able to make that connection. This can be helpful to enter here. This is an optional field. As soon as you start entering that resource, it would populate there. Do need to note, these would need to already be on the platform for you to enter them here. And then below that, a couple of questions. So would you like a DOI associated with your object? So this would be relevant to those objects that are original work that are not published elsewhere and for which you would like a DOI. Again, there was a lot in that sentence. So if you have questions at all about whether you would like a DOI, please do feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to talk more about those options. It does give a digital identifier to your resource and your publication so that you'll be able to share that with others. So it's a good way to be able to disseminate your resource and be able to share with others the resource that you've published. If there are files associated with your resource, that's the next field that you see here. So all manner of kind of general files are possible to upload. So PDFs, PowerPoints, images, you can all enter anything here that's relevant to your resource. Following that is the one that you actually see on this resource, which is a link to external sites. So if in this case, this RSC resource is linking out, or this link is linking out to a resource at the RSC. And so you have the option to enter in multiple links here to external links as it's relevant to your resource. So for example, here you'll see the URL first, and then the text for that particular resource. You can enter in what makes sense to you for you here. Good practice here is for that link text to be descriptive of the resource. So you can see here, it has the title of the resource that you would find at that link. Below this, so review notes, this would be updated as the resource went under a review. The last thing below here needs to be checked, which is that you agree to the publishing agreement. There is a link to that agreement right below that statement. So encourage you to check that out first, and then check that you agree to that to that agreement. Sorry. There's dogs behind me. I apologize for that pause. This right-hand side appears on the review side. So there's nothing that you would be seeing there to enter. So I realize that that view looks slightly different for folks when you're in that submission form. So once you have gotten to this point and you have entered all the information and you've selected, I agree to the publishing agreement at below, and this looks slightly different because this is already published, you would see in that option where it currently says change to, you would see an option that says to submit for review. And that is a key part. So, I'll talk through that step a little bit more clearly. So when you scroll down to the bottom here, you will see in that field, it will say draft, and you will want to make sure that you save it so that it saves it as a draft. That means you're not going to lose any of the information that you have entered. So save it as a draft. You can then come back in here, edit to this learning object. And if you are ready to submit, so you are all set, everything's final in here, you've entered all the information, then you want to change in this field to submit for review. So you would change that to submit for review and then select save, hoping I got the language there correct. And then it would submit it to that review process. So it is a little bit of a two-step process here. You want to save the information that you have entered for the resource, and then you want to go back in to the resource and submit it for review. I'm going to pause and see if Jonathan or Nim have other thoughts there. I should also add in for instructions.
Nope, that's great.
Awesome. Once you've submitted that for review, so yay, you've done it. You've submitted it for review. In terms of what happens next, so there's automated emails that come through for the folks, myself and others that are administrators on the platform, that will see that you have submitted that resource. And then we will pass it on through the review process after that point. So I will add that if you would like to serve as a peer reviewer, we highly encourage that. And we'll include that link momentarily when I get done sharing this screen. And would love to have more folks sign up to be peer reviewers on the platform. So we assign it a peer reviewer, they go through a peer review process and they check particular fields in the form. That then comes back to me for a final review, and then push it to a published resource. At any point in the process, if we have questions, we'll always reach out to you first. If you have questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us. So you will receive updates as to where the resource is in the process. So there are multiple kind of email checkpoints that will come out to give you that information. But if you're questioning at any point in time, just always reach out to us. We're happy to check on it, let you know where it's at in the process, help you through whatever stage it might be at. So I'm going to stop share, and then if we can reshare the slide deck, or I can, just to have the rest of that information in the recording for folks.
How about you share, Sarah, since we have the small audience today?
Okay, I can do that. Give me one moment because it's a different screen. Yeah. I'm going to actually turn it over to Jonathan to talk about two other things here. So we'll share about the raffle and then upcoming events.
Sure, sounds good. So Just really quickly wanted to mention the raffle, which is ongoing. So within the GCTLC, we are running a raffle until April 15th. And part of the raffle is that anyone who registers with the platform and completes certain things within the platform is automatically entered to win a series of different gift cards. So you can see the various levels and ways to win on the left-hand side. So if you register and add a headshot, you'll be entered in the first level. If you register and add a headshot and complete some additional things such as adding comments to a forum, filling in your profile, those will automatically enter you to the second level. And then if you complete levels 1 and 2, and also add a learning object, an event, or a job posting to the GCTLC, that will automatically add you to level 3. So for anyone who is interested in watching, you're welcome to scan the QR code, register on the GCTLC, and then again, engaging in the site through different ways, you'll be able to find the full details for the raffle in the top of the homepage. With that, I guess we'll go to the next slide as well, which is on our survey that's ongoing. So our Beyond Benign team is looking for feedback, especially from higher ed educators. And this is around some professional development use of green chemistry in your current courses and curricula. And so we would love for any and all feedback you might be able to provide. It takes about 15 minutes. And with that, we'd really appreciate your feedback. And again, you will also be entered into a second draw for additional gift cards through this survey. Alrighty.
Thanks, Jonathan.
No problem.
And we want to thank everybody who's been part of the team. Just shout out to all these wonderful folks that I have the pleasure and opportunity to be able to engage with. So, yay. And then lastly, we want to leave you with some other asks, if you will. So we'll skip to signing up to be a peer reviewer. So happy to have more folks engaged in this work. So we would invite you to do that. Want to mention that I do have office hours every week on Fridays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. And we welcome you to come and join me and chat. If you have any questions about the process, I am available and would be happy to talk with you then. And then I will turn it over to Jonathan, maybe, to talk about our upcoming events.
Yep. So we have a couple in our calendar coming up. In particular, I want to highlight 2 webinars. So one is our Green Chemistry Connections, which happens every month on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. This is generally geared toward the higher education side, but is certainly open to anyone who wants to join. And it centers around the student learning objectives for the Green Chemistry Commitment Program. But again, we have presentations from experts in the field, from educators, from industry representatives. And so it's a lot of fun. And then there's always chances for breakout sessions after. So welcome to register for that. There's the Observe, Wonder, Think, which is our other webinar, more geared towards the K-12 education side. So teachers in elementary, middle, and high school. And again, a good chance to see some presentations and chat with others. Finally, we'll have our info session on the Green Chemistry Commitment, which will be on Tuesday. I think that's Wednesday. That might be a typo. On April 24th, regardless, at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So anyone who's interested in learning more about the Green Chemistry Commitment, Dr. John Warner, who is one of the founders of Green Chemistry and of Beyond Benign, is going to be presenting and talking about the program there. So a really great chance to see a presentation by John and to learn more about the commitment.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I think that wraps us up. So we hope that we will see you at office hours or these events. Hope that this is helpful in getting you to submit resources to the platform. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. We would be more than happy to work with you. And thank you for joining us today.